After years of federal oversight, the state takes over supervision of asbestos cleanup in Libby.
The fate of Montana artesian water is in the hands of a DNRC examiner after a 3-day hearing.
And a Missoula neighborhood shocked by a brutal double murder is rallying together to help one another through the tragedy.
Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on KPAX, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Dennis Bray.
And I'm Jill Valley. Closed since fires hit the west side of the park, the complete Going to the Sun Road may not reopen again this fall.
But Glacier National Park managers tell us visitors should still be able to access Logan Pass from the east side until mid-October as long as the weather cooperates. The Going to the Sun Road and facilities like Lake McDonald Lodge were closed around Labor Day when the Sprague fire expanded. However, the popular road is still open from St. Mary on the east with a scheduled closing date now of October 16th. Park administrators say if the west side of Going to the Sun does reopen, it will still close as previously scheduled on October 9th. And in any event, construction on the Alpine stretch below Logan Pass would slow traffic again like it did last year. Shuttles will continue to operate on the east side until this weekend. Those red buses that are so popular will roll until October 8th. Park says Going to the Sun is expected to reopen the Avalanche on October 21st with traditional hiker-biker access beyond the gate. That closure point will move back to Lake McDonald in mid-December. And if you're traveling over mountain passes this weekend, you need to be aware of some winter weather that could make the road conditions a little tricky. For the latest, here's Chief Meteorologist Aaron Yost. Aaron?
And that's expected for folks in the southwest quarter of the state. Mother Nature still giving us those cool and unsettled conditions on this last full day of summer. We're officially going to make that switch tomorrow to fall at 2:02 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. So what a day that we saw ending the summer season. Here's Hamilton First Security Bank ICAM. A little bit of sunshine out there. Isolated mountain snow and valley rain showers throughout much of the day, and that does include this evening. We will start to see that radar filling in though, especially again for the southwest quarter of the state overnight tonight and throughout the day tomorrow. That's where we find those winter weather advisories in effect for elevations above 5,000 feet, where quite a few inches of snow are possible. I've got a forecast update coming up shortly.
After years of cleanup operations, the focus is shifting on Libby's asbestos cleanup problem. Now a new effort is starting on how the community can deal with the contamination for years to come, rather than just removing obvious contamination. That contamination comes from decades of vermiculite mining at the W.R. Grace mine, which closed almost 30 years ago. After years of research and a big legal fight, the company finally agreed to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to help the Environmental Protection Agency with cleanup costs. That asbestos removal at local homes and businesses has been underway for years, removing tons of contaminated dirt and debris. Now a new group is swinging into action, the Libby Asbestos Superfund Advisory Committee. It met for the first time in Helena today after being authorized by the legislature last spring. The panel's assignment is to manage the ongoing efforts to help the community deal with future contamination discoveries as EPA winds down work under the Superfund program. EPA hopes to complete cleanup on the remaining 200 properties on its list by the end of this year or early 2018. While the cleanup is focused on contamination in Libby proper, there's still no firm plan of what to do at the mine site located outside of town.
A 3-day hearing into whether a Flathead County company can bottle water out of Creston ends without testimony from the Montana Artesian Water Company's owner. The company is seeking a permit to pump 625,000 gallons of groundwater a day to bottle and sell nationwide. The company owner, Lou Weaver, was expected to testify in the public hearing today, but his representation says he had a medical emergency and couldn't be there. As a result, the hearing will not continue tomorrow, but the record will remain open for possible testimony from him at a later date. A large group of Flathead Valley residents objecting to the permit say it was disappointing that Weaver didn't testify today, while his representation says it was for a good reason.
We feel that we should have the opportunity to have Mr. Lou Weaver in a public setting as everyone else has been. And we feel just getting him in a lawyer's office with the two sets of attorneys isn't really fair, that he should have to be able to be questioned in a public setting.
He actually wound up in the hospital yesterday, was in the ER for a better part of the day. Doctors sent him home and told him to lay low. He wound up back in the ER again late last night, was there till about 4 this morning.
Coit says if the ruling isn't in their favor, they are already planning to appeal the case in district court. While that company representative Daryl James says they're prepared to immediately begin production if the permit is issued. The NRC's hearing examiner has up to 3 months to issue a decision.
Police lights and crime tape are often part of the landscape for one Missoula neighborhood that is growing weary of not only the danger but the stigma of what goes on there. And after a brutal double murder this summer, people who live in central Missoula want to reclaim their turf. The house is boarded up. No trespassing signs are everywhere. The house where two young people were not only murdered but dismembered. A scene so horrible, Missoula law enforcement offered counseling to those officers who had to respond. Neighbors say it was the third major crime of the year, but it's time to come together as neighbors and fight back.
We wanted to do something to connect everybody and to make it feel okay again, you know, instead of having just cop cars coming down the roads. We see each other's faces and are able to see each other kind of as human beings.
This weekend, residents who live around Strand and Kensington, all around this central Missoula neighborhood, will gather for a block party. It's to reconnect as neighbors, to reclaim their neighborhood, to make each other feel safer. The Saturday gathering isn't just about meeting the neighbors. Members of Missoula Police Department will be there to talk about the Strand Avenue murder and other crimes. They'll teach self-defense moves and how to identify a crime in progress. It comes at a time when some are worried about this area's future, as this woman told us this summer.
You can walk or drive down the street and see needles just everywhere. My daughter went to Franklin Park the other day and there was a needle in the park.
It is not a bad neighborhood. It's a place where something bad happened. An old Missoula neighborhood with history, where good people will stand up to crime.
There's always a positive to knowing the people that you live by, and there's always a positive to making connections. So I'm hoping that in the long run it'll just, and you know, this neighborhood will embrace each other a little bit more.
Now this block party is this Saturday from 5 to 7 around the 1900 block of Kensington. Bring a chair and a side dish. They're providing the main course. There will also be trauma specialists there to talk about an upcoming meeting that can help people cope with the crime and that feeling of unsettledness or unsafe that you may have after this crime happened in that neighborhood. It's getting chilly outside, and for those who are homeless in our community, one program may be able to provide opportunities and a warm bed. Housing Montana's Heroes has programs for veterans at the Poverello Center. They work with the Valor House here in Missoula to give veteran resources and hope. Due to a new grant, those services will be changing. Poverello officials say they will keep the same 20 beds, but with a slightly different model.
Our beds up essentially into a couple of different smaller programs, so we're able to offer more tailored services to the veterans that we're serving here in Missoula.
The Poverello is inviting anybody who is interested in learning more about the Housing Montana Heroes program to a lunch and learn event tomorrow. It's at the Poverello and it starts at noon.
Voting is closing tonight for the Kalispell Bypass, which is up for the People's Choice Award from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, honoring highway projects which have had the most significant impact on their communities. Voters say completion of the north end of the U.S. bypass brought a major change to the way traffic flows through the Flathead when it opened last year. The highway has not only made it easier for people traveling through the valley, it's also eased congestion downtown and resulted in hundreds of millions of dollars in new development and jobs. Now the bypass is one of 12 finalists for the award, which at last word was in third place. The votes come to an end here in a couple of hours. The bypass already won the American Transportation Committee's Quality of Life Award last spring.
And the gleaming new Missoula College is already fully operational, but tomorrow it becomes officially opened with Governor Steve Bullock heading the grand opening ceremonies. It's been just over 3 years since the University of Montana started construction on the new Missoula College campus in the mouth of the Hellgate Canyon. With Jackson Contractor Group keeping this project right on schedule, the 115,000 square foot building was complete by late last winter. Classes move into the new facility over the summer, and tomorrow's ceremony will mark the official dedication of this building, with speakers including Bullock, Commissioner of Higher Education Clayton Christensen, President Sheila Stearns, and Missoula College Dean Shannon O'Brien heading the program. The Payne family will also be recognized for the $29 million gift that allowed the project to move forward after years of planning. That event starts at 2 p.m.
It's a great building. If you haven't been in there to see it, you're going to be impressed.
It's beautiful. All right, after the break, Aaron will have your less gloomy forecast to close out the work week.
And later, they say everything is bigger in Texas, even the cows, the cattle, I should say. They're having a hard time imagining this beast. We'll have that story coming up.